This is a perfect one. None.
It's beautiful, thank you.
Let's keep moving.
Okay. Look at these two.
Perfect. I'll put this one in the basket.
We have so many today.
Look at this one. It's perfect.
Yes, the harvest is bountiful today.
Just one more basket and we're done.
All right, loaded up and ready. These are the freshest.
Excellent quality.
Just pick this one.
Come see our produce. Look at these. They're perfect.
Ready for the market. How much for these?
Hello, dear viewers. Today, we invite you to follow a simple yet deeply emotional story about Huyen and Day as they begin a long, hard-working day to harvest 1 ton of tomatoes to bring to the market. From the early morning hours in a garden still covered in dew to the scorching midday sun with sweat falling onto crates of ripe red tomatoes, and finally to the peaceful evening moment when everything is loaded onto the truck. Each scene reflects the reward of patience, love for the land, and the strength of walking side by side. This story is not just about farming, it is about faith, hope, and a humble life rooted in the countryside. If you enjoy warm, heartfelt, everyday stories, authentic moments of hard work, and the peaceful rhythm of rural life, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this video to support us. Your support is the greatest motivation for us to continue bringing you more meaningful and inspiring stories. Thank you so much for watching. At dawn, when the sky was still painted in soft shades of pale blue and gold, Huyen and Day slipped quietly into their tomato garden, where the air was cool and heavy with the scent of earth and morning dew. Rows of tomato plants stretched out before them, glistening as tiny droplets of water clung to the leaves and stems. The fruits hung low on the vines, round, plump, and glowing in deep shades of red, silent proof of months of careful tending. For a moment, they both paused, taking in the sight. This was the morning they had been waiting for, the day their hard work would finally turn into a tangible reward. Huyen was the first to move. She slipped on her gloves and gently lifted a cluster of ripe tomatoes, examining each one with a practiced eye. Only the best would be picked today, those with smooth skins, even color, and just the right firmness. With a small, careful twist of her wrist, the tomatoes came free from the vine, landing softly in her woven basket. Day worked nearby, moving steadily from plant to plant, cutting the stems cleanly and placing the tomatoes into sturdy crates. His movements were quick but precise, shaped by long mornings and late afternoons spent in this very field. As the sun rose higher, its light spilled across the garden, warming their backs and bringing the colors of the farm to life. Birds fluttered among the trees at the edge of the field, and somewhere in the distance, a rooster crowed, marking the true beginning of the day. Huyen and Day spoke little, but the quiet between them was comfortable, filled with shared understanding. Each tomato they harvested carried memories of early planting days, of unexpected storms they had worried over, and of long evenings spent checking the soil and watering the plants by hand. Soon, the first baskets were full. They carried them carefully to the shaded area beneath a large tree, where empty crates waited to be filled. The sound of tomatoes settling into the boxes was deeply satisfying, a soft, reassuring thud that seemed to echo their sense of accomplishment. Huyen wiped her hands on her apron and smiled, her eyes lingering on the growing stack of crates. "They're beautiful this year," she said quietly, pride evident in her voice. Day nodded in agreement, a small grin forming as he surveyed the harvest. This was not just produce, it was the result of patience, resilience, and faith in the land. By mid-morning, the garden was alive with activity. Dew had vanished from the leaves, replaced by the warmth of sunlight, and the scent of ripe tomatoes filled the air. Huyen and Day continued their work, moving in rhythm, knowing that this was only the beginning. Ahead lay a long day and many more crates to fill, but in that moment, surrounded by red fruits and golden light, they felt a deep sense of gratitude. The harvest had begun, and with it came the promise of a hopeful season ahead. As the morning slowly turned into midday, the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a stronger, more demanding heat over the tomato field. The gentle coolness of dawn faded, replaced by warm air that clung to Huyen and De's skin as they continued harvesting without pause. Their movements became more deliberate now, paced carefully to conserve energy, yet neither of them slowed down. A full ton of tomatoes awaited, and every crate filled brought them one step closer to their goal of carrying the harvest to market. The crates under the old tree multiplied quickly. De lifted one after another, testing their weight before stacking them neatly in rows. Each box was heavy, filled with ripe tomatoes that pressed gently against one another, releasing a fresh green aroma mixed with sweetness. His arms ached, but he welcomed the familiar strain. It was the honest weight of work done right. Nearby, Huyen focused on sorting, her eyes scanning each tomato as she separated the most flawless ones for early sale at the market. Those with slight imperfections were placed aside, still valuable, destined for local buyers who appreciated freshness over appearance. Sweat rolled down Huyen's temple as she paused briefly to drink some water, her gaze drifting across the field. She remembered the weeks when rain had come too late, the nights when she and De worried about pests ruining the crop, and the countless mornings they had risen before sunrise to check the vines. All those moments felt worthwhile now. The plants, though slightly tired-looking after heavy fruiting, still stood strong, their branches bending under the weight of generosity they had offered. Deb broke the silence with a quiet laugh, remarking that this was the biggest harvest they had ever had. His voice carried both exhaustion and excitement. Huyen smiled in response, encouraged by his words. A good harvest meant more than income. It meant security, the ability to plan ahead, and the reassurance that their efforts could sustain them through the coming months. As they worked side by side, there was an unspoken agreement between them. No matter how tiring the day became, they would see it through together. By early afternoon, the heat was intense. The ground radiated warmth through the soles of their shoes, and the leaves no longer shimmered with dew, but curled slightly in the sun. Still, the field echoed with steady activity, the snip of stems, the soft rustle of vines, and the dull thud of tomatoes settling into crates. Occasionally, a breeze swept through, offering brief relief and carrying the scent of ripening fruit across the farm. Despite the fatigue settling into their shoulders and backs, hope filled the space between them. Each full crate represented opportunity waiting at the market. Conversations with familiar vendors, early customers eager for fresh produce, and the satisfaction of seeing their tomatoes chosen and carried away. Under the relentless sun, Huyen and De pressed on, not only by necessity, but by belief in the simple promise of their land, that honest work would always bear fruit. As the afternoon light softened and began to tilt toward evening, the long workday slowly drew to a close. The tomato field, once heavy with fruit, now looked lighter, its vines relieved of their burden. Beneath the large tree at the edge of the garden, the final count was complete. 1 full ton of tomatoes, neatly packed into sturdy crates, ready for the journey to market. Huyen stood quietly for a moment, hands resting on her hips, breathing in the familiar scent of leaves, soil, and ripe fruit. Fatigue weighed on her body, yet her heart felt full in a way only a successful harvest could bring. Din moved with careful focus as he began loading the crates onto the small truck. Each box was lifted with intention, placed precisely to keep the tomatoes safe during transport. He checked the balance of the load, adjusting position so nothing would shift on the road. Huyen followed behind him, pulling a thick tarp over the crates and tying it down securely. The sound of rope tightening and knots being fastened echoed softly in the quieting field. This final step, though simple, felt symbolic, protecting not just tomatoes, but months of effort and shared dreams. The sky turned a gentle orange, and long shadows stretched across the ground. Huyen climbed onto the back of the truck one last time to inspect the crates, making sure none were damaged or overfilled. She brushed a bit of dust from her hands and smiled, satisfied. Den wiped sweat from his brow and leaned against the truck, his exhaustion evident but softened by pride. They exchanged a look that needed no words. The hardest part was over. Before leaving, they walked back into the field together. Huyen touched the leaves of one plant, silently thanking the land that had sustained them, then looked across the rows, already thinking about the next planting, the next season. Farming had taught them patience and humility, but also resilience. Every harvest reminded them that success was never guaranteed, yet always possible when care and commitment were given freely. As the engine started, the truck rumbled to life, breaking the calm of the evening. Huyen climbed into the passenger seat, turning once more to look at the garden fading behind them. Tomorrow, the tomatoes would sit on wooden tables at the market, their bright red color catching the eyes of burly shoppers. Some would be sold quickly, others after friendly conversations and familiar bargaining. Each one would carry a piece of this day, the heat, the labor, the quiet determination. The truck rolled forward, leaving the fields in the glow of sunset. For Huyen and Den, this journey was more than a trip to sell produce. It was a bridge between the land they loved and the community they served, between hard work and hope. As the road stretched ahead, they felt tired but certain. Today's harvest was not just an ending, but the beginning of another promising chapter.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Live Single RV. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Trong câu chuyện hôm nay của chúng ta đã kể về nội dung đó chính là Huyền và Đệ đã có một mùa bội thu cà chua rất là lớn ở trên nông trại của Huyền. Những quả cà chua chín mọng và đỏ đỏ au đã được thu hoạch bởi Huyền và Đệ. Cả hai đã mang số cà chua này về nông trại và chuẩn bị mang đi bán, sẽ thu lại một số tiền khá lớn để Đệ và Huyền có thể trang trải kinh tế, tiếp tục xây dựng mở rộng trang trại và sẽ chuẩn bị giống cho vụ mùa tiếp theo. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về câu chuyện Huyền Đệ cũng như cuộc sống xoay xung quanh họ sẽ còn được kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về câu chuyện sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày vào lúc 16 giờ Việt Nam trên kênh Live Single RV nha. Đặc biệt đừng quên bấm like, share và để lại bình luận góp ý ở dưới video. Mọi bình luận của các bạn ở dưới video sẽ giúp mình hoàn thiện các nội dung ở trên kênh hay hơn nữa để phục vụ khán giả. Xin cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều đã luôn theo dõi và ủng hộ kênh của mình. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn vào ngày mai. Thanks for watching. See you soon tomorrow everyone. Bye bye.